And we are recording. Hello, Brandon. It feels like it's forever now between our podcasts, but I am Austin Light with American Demon Comics. This is my good buddy Brandon Ingram with Dismay Comics, and we're here to share our learning experience as we develop in this field. How are things, Brandon?
Things have been good. I got back from Mexico a few days ago, so I'm still adjusting with my sleep schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're only 2 hours behind. It's basically Pacific time, but it was a lot of work. It was great though. Great mission trip there. But now just getting acclimated back to the States. The biggest thing that took me a few days to get acclimated to was while I was in Mexico, didn't have good signal / didn't have the time to be on the internet and stuff. I had a lot of editing to do for comics while I was there. So once I got back, it was just a few days of just nonstop editing comics. But yesterday, finally did the last bit of edits for one of the comics, or the last one that needed editing. So now I can kind of breathe a little bit.
Awesome. Well, we are happy to have you back safe and to have had a safe trip there. Now, Brendan, as you're talking, there's something going on. I don't know if it's on your end too, but on my end, your camera seems to freeze and lag a little bit, and then it jumps back to where you're at, but it's periodically doing that. I don't know.
Is my mic freezing at all, or is it just camera?
It's just the camera. We can hear you good. And then it'll catch up to, so when you're talking, it's not like it's delayed talking.
Okay. If you want, I know this is weird because we're already recording. Oh, I'm looking at it. I am a little bit delayed right now. I can exit out of StreamYard real quick, jump back in, because that usually does the trick. So let me do that really quickly.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
Am I lagging any?
It is lagging. I don't know if that's just because you're back into it.
It might be the weather. It's just raining. Rain doesn't like live streams.
Well, that's all right. We will be fine. So I want to get into my Kickstarter, pros and cons, how it's been going, what I've learned, and then we're gonna hear about this '90s documentary that you brought up.
Okay.
And then for some of our finales, we're going to be making some announcements and going over what watching the new Hellboy trailer, which I don't know if that like mutes us or something. I don't know if there's like a copyright issue there.
It's reaction. It's covered under reaction. Plus, it's at the tail end of an episode. Like, if a company, whoever's producing it, you'll see at the beginning of the trailer, there's one company I've never heard of. It's the dumbest name
for
a production company. If they somehow want to scan through 50 minutes of a podcast just to copyright, sure, go ahead. There's other YouTube channels that are just doing reaction videos on just that.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, fair enough. We will gamble on our 20 viewers, 20 viewer regulars. So with the Kickstarter, I would say the main thing that I've learned is that you cannot predict based off your crowd enthusiasm. At least I haven't been able to. Now, we do still have approximately a week left, but I don't know if I mentioned this last time, or what. I think I did, but those weeks ago, there are a sect of people that I would have thought to immediately pledge to the Kickstarter that didn't, and it is 2 weeks later, and many of them still have not. So again, we're just gonna have to see how these last 3 days puts on the pressure to people. I know that that's supposed to be a boost, but it doesn't help with the algorithm, and people's money does not come out immediately. There's just a lot of caveats that's just kind of like, it's excusable, but also you don't have to be so wary with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think people are wary about how they interact with Kickstarter, but
especially people that haven't backed a Kickstarter before, because there's the thing of like, if they haven't backed it, they don't know that, like, oh, like my credit card doesn't get charged right now. It's at the very end of this. It's, if you backed it day one, it's 30 days from now, credit card gets charged. So if you wanted to, I don't recommend people doing this. If you wanted to withdraw your pledge because you don't see yourself having the money at the end, then you could do that. But yeah, there's that aspect of like, oh, my credit card's going to get charged right now. And also, I don't think people realize, I'm not like talking specifically about like any specific Kickstarter, but some people think like, oh, like my credit card is going to get charged even if it doesn't reach its goal or something. And it's like, no. Like you're not going to be like, if it reaches its goal, yes, you're going to get charged. You're guaranteed the books. If it doesn't reach its goal, you're not going to get charged. There's no worry there. And then Kickstarter is the most well-known, the most the safest crowdfunding platform.
Right.
But still, not everyone knows about Kickstarter or just crowdfunding in general.
Yeah.
To where if you get the average person, or even like average comic collector or something, not all of them do Kickstarters. Where when they get on there, it's like, oh, like, I don't know, it's a gamble with my money, when really it's not.
There's a good portion of people that would outright hand me the money before they want to get on Kickstarter.
Exactly.
You know, it's but so I would say that there's you know, you do have what you have built up as a crowd. You know, they're supporting you. At the same time, Kickstarter is just kind of based off your numbers game. So if you do have a good portion of an audience, a few thousand, then a few, you know, dozen of those would probably be invested enough to go through the Kickstarter process of supporting you. So I wasn't at that level, and there's been a whole lot of, I have had a whole lot of marketing push. I have had a whole lot of interactions with people, a whole lot of just anything I can do at all to get it out in front of eyes. I mention it almost every day in some form on some social media platform. Usually I hit all social media platforms 2 or 3 times a week right now. And this, I just didn't have the audience or the numbers to coalesce a good push. Also, another learned thing is I wasn't aware of how critical those interviews would be. So getting those lined up long before and then during the Kickstarter would have been a huge boon. Again, I did have to kind of radically adjust myself to get ready for this Kickstarter because I wasn't thinking about it a few months ago, that I was going to be pushed up to this time limit. You know, once I started thinking about the turnaround of having the money given out and then having the printer proof and then having it printed and shipped to me and everything, I was like, you know, oh gosh, I've really got to get this Kickstarter going way sooner than I had initially had in my brain, because again, I've added on like 10 pages more of the story for this issue than I thought that I would have originally done for the issue. I was going to just kind of keep them in a 18 to 24 page range per you know, little chunk of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that was important, learning about the interviews, learning how to get those lined up and talk with people. And it's been so fun. I've loved doing all of them. And everybody's been so nice. And this gets into a positive of the Kickstarter. So me doing this big marketing push and getting to talk to all these people has been a huge plus to the audience. I've picked up, you know, 30 to 50 followers on each platform, except for TikTok. and I've gotten, you know, a few people that are like very passionate about the about indie comics and supporting indie comics and help and being able to be there to help show support in any way they can. Many people that have had me on have backed it, and so I'm really happy with their support. And it's also given me a community where I can also give back in their support, like kind of reciprocate it and help, you know, give it. It also helps have more content to push and have a social media presence and actually use the social media as social. So
Yeah.
that's been a huge plus in this campaign.
No, I agree, because I've I've mentioned about my first Kickstarter campaign not having any connections in terms of interviews or anything like that, and it just didn't work to where the second Kickstarter campaign I had, the first successful one, Gallows Man #1, like when I reached out to people and stuff, that's when I realized, like, in terms of a push, getting an audience or whatever it may be, like getting on those shows, or at the very least, like this channel reviewing my book or something, that's like the most beneficial thing for me in terms of garnering an audience, as well as just having successful Kickstarters. From then on was just constantly getting on more and more shows. Like I've already yesterday, we'll get into it later. I'm not trying to transition to this. This is just because it's fresh on the brain. Yesterday, I was sending out like all the emails and Instagram messages to all the people I've been on shows with before for an upcoming Kickstarter. But I sent those out. Sometime later this week or next week, there's new shows that I'll discover, or just haven't had the courage to send out before. And now I'll send out to those to try to garner even more spread, sort of thing. But yeah, like to piggyback off of what you said, me personally, I know it's different for everyone in terms of how they get that audience in for their stuff, but the YouTube stuff and all that has been the biggest push for me getting an audience. Because of that, people that watch those shows, or even the people that host the shows, they then back my books, and like a lot of them are like regulars where it's like, I've got a new thing out, they back it within the first week, sort of thing, which is very helpful compared to my first two, if not first three Kickstarters, where it's like, are we going to do this or not? like will this be able to happen? Now it's nearly it's a knock on wood type thing, but nearly a guarantee to reach, because I don't have big goals with them, but to reach $1,000 on a Kickstarter, like it's nearly a guarantee to do that. With, again, I haven't amassed a large audience, but there's a collective, like couple dozen or so, where it's like guaranteed to back the first week, if not the last week. Sometimes that last week I have to be like, hey, like only a few days left. I know you really like this stuff. Just want to let you know.
Well, with the videos and the interviews and the reviews and stuff like that, had I not been on the time crunch, being able to be on more of them prior to kind of get the momentum ready would have been really, really helpful. And then being on several of them, maybe if I got to spread them out a little bit more. Again, I really enjoy being on them, but there are other aspects of my life that I've kind of forget about, or have scheduled over, or have had to reschedule the interviews around, that would mess things up. So if doing a lot of them beforehand would have helped spread them out more during the Kickstarter going on. So that'll be the plan for next time. And I think I'll do another one for issue 3 next year. And again, I think that with knowing my process and how I've made issue number 2, I'll be able to look at a time scale a little bit better and start planning those more accordingly. The next thing that I wanted to get to that you kind of touched on in what you were saying is the actual financial part. I chose 1,600 to have a little bit of a buffer to help with shipping, and then to also help have a little bit of a profit and then also kind of cover what Kickstarter takes out of it, and that could be reduced. And because I don't know if this is going to be like prodding or bothering Kickstarter at all, but they have a message system, and essentially the kind of fallback plan is if it doesn't fund, is to be like, hey, if you're still interested in having a copy, just send me what you want out of the, what your pledge was, or I can track that myself. But it'll make it easier if they send it, and then here's a link to like my PayPal or something, and you can send what you want to send to the PayPal, and then that will help have it printed. So I do already have some money set aside to help get the money print or get the comic printed, but I will need a little bit more to get the bulk that I want. But I could have set my goal a little bit closer to 1,000, maybe not at 1,000. I think that would be just a little less, but like 1,200 would probably be doable. I think that I would be able to fund that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like when I set my goal at now it's mostly 1,000, but in the early days it'd be like a $500 goal or something. It was mostly because I had a little money like saved up to where the bulk that I wanted to buy, I could still get it even if it just did fund 500, but or even 1,000. But none of those ever just fund that. Like it hit 1,000 and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of them get to like 1,500 or 2,000 or something, to where like it's able to fund that big chunk I originally was going to pull out of pocket to help a little bit. I think the reason I do so low, I think part of it might be from that like subconsciously, it might be from that first Kickstarter where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hit this goal. I think the goal was like 1,500 or 2,000 or something. I didn't hit this, so I'm a little timid to have the big goal or whatever. I think that's part of it. I think also part of it is I've seen the psychology of people backing Kickstarters. And if a thing is nearly funded, or if it is fully funded, even though there's no skin off their bone whether it gets funded or not, like if it's nearly funded or if it is funded, it's a thing in their head of like, oh, well, I'm guaranteed to get it then.
Right.
To where they're like more willing to back it, even though like if it doesn't fund, you don't lose any money.
Mm-hmm.
If it does fund, it's the same case. For some reason, people think they're taking a gamble if it's halfway. Sorry, some spam call. They for some reason think they're taking a gamble.
And and that's part of why I've been like, guys, if you said you're going to pledge, just please pledge. So it looks like it's going to fund. So at least that will play into the psychology of other people funding it. Like that was kind of the whole,
because you have
hope.
people that back that understand Kickstarter. Like usually it's your day ones or your day twos where it's like, it's the first day. Of course, it's only at $100, $200, $300 or whatever. They understand how Kickstarter works, where it's like I donate and help it get to its goal, sort of thing.
Right.
But it's like, because I've experienced it with, well, basically what I've seen with all my Kickstarters is I try to get fully funded, whether it's $1,000 goal or $750 goal or whatever. I try to get fully funded within the first week, because I like, you've seen this with this Kickstarter. I've seen it with every Kickstarter I've had, successful or not, and everyone else that's run a Kickstarter, I've seen this. Weeks 2 and 3 Really, you could say like after day 5 of your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
From there to like the last few days of your Kickstarter is just tough in terms of like trying to get people to back. It's like a dead zone kind of. And what I've noticed with the Kickstarters I've done is like if I get funded that first week, whenever I again, it's still a dead zone that after the 5th day to the last few days, when I finally catch someone's ear and they finally hear about the Kickstarter and they finally go to it, it's that psychological thing where like, oh, they see it's funded. Now they're willing to back it, even though like, even if it wasn't funded, they could still back it.
Right.
It's weird. And that's the thing. Like I'm saying all this,
but it looks popular.
That's the thing is like they see the green line all the way. They see or nearly all the way. They see it at 90% or 95% or 102%. It's like, ooh, like it's already funded. It's I don't know. It's weird. Like because Kickstarter is supposed to be a crowdfunder for us to reach this goal.
Right.
That's the point of it. We're supposed to reach the goal. I think a lot of customers or people that go on Kickstarter and back stuff see it more as pre-orders. Which, yes, it kind of like I've basically had to adapt my Kickstarters into being pre-orders because so many people see it as just pre-orders. But it's not that. Like our goal is to get to the stretch goal. Once we get there, yes, you can get your stuff. But I think so many people have in their mind of like, well, I'm pre-ordering this thing.
Yeah.
If it doesn't reach its goal, then I'm not going to get it.
My money in it.
I might be out my money or whatever. It's like, I don't know. A lot of people misconstrue their idea of Kickstarter. But in my stretch goal as well as my marketing, I kind of have to go in their route of like, pre-order, even though it's not a pre-order.
Well, I got a question. So during setup, I didn't see anything about stretch goals. Does stretch goals become an option only
stretch
once
goals
there's
is
like
just
a certain
something? It's something you put into the story part of your campaign. Like basically when you're making the campaign, like all that information you type in, you just put it into there. There's no, it's not like an add-on section or a reward section. It's just like you put it within it sort of thing.
Okay. So it's not like a built-in Kickstarter thing.
No. Yeah. It's not like one of the tiers that you add. It's not one of those. Same thing with like I've done backer giveaways before, and I'll put that in the campaign where it's like every 25 backers, like that's another chance of winning a sticker and bookmark set. It's free, so like it's no big deal. And so like that's just typed up within the story part, and then at the end of the campaign, if we get 75 backers or Tales from Town City, I know I'm not going to touch that many backers for a long time. It was like 114 backers. It was insane. Gallows Man 3 might get half of that. I'd be happy if it got half of that. But with that at the end, I just counted up as like, okay, 114, that's 4 things. I just put all the physical backers. I didn't put the digital backers into this. I put all the physical backers into one of those random name generator things or those spin things. I put all the usernames into that and just clicked it. Once it lands on one, it's like, okay, blah, 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 one of the sticker and bookmark sets. And then do that like 3 times or whatever. I'm trailing off on that. Your question was, where does it go? It just goes in like the story section, basically.
Gotcha. Okay, well that's good to know because I was expecting there to be like a part of Kickstarter to be like, okay, so here's a stretch goal option, and you can input it or something. But
I think the
no, I
reason
didn't.
they don't input it is because it's different than the reward tiers or the
Mhm.
add-ons. The reward tiers or add-ons, you can like select that at any point. Whereas a stretch goal, like no one can really like click on that or select it. It's just
Right, it's just something to get.
once it reaches 1500 or whatever, we've got the first stretch goal, and it's just added to your order, sort of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. People ask me about stretch goals, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'll throw a pin in there if it, if it gets funded, but I haven't seen anything about a stretch goal on Kickstarter. Yeah. So.
And I just do, because like originally, whenever I first started Kickstarter, my first 2 or 3 Kickstarters, I was trying to think of like big grand stretch goals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking about that until I get Kickstarters that make over $5,000.
Right.
So my stretch goals are just like bookmark, I think a sticker, like an exclusive sticker that's not a part of the sticker pack, and then the big one, 8x10 poster print. Those are all small things. But it's cost effective for me as well as like for those backing the book. It's just, hey, free little thing. Like they didn't have to pay for it. So
after this Kickstarter, I really want to get some T-shirts.
Yeah.
And what I can do is maybe make another Kickstarter for the T-shirts and set it at like $600 or $700. And then that would cover having T-shirts printed. And then maybe have like, the comic as an option or something. But I've seen some item-oriented Kickstarters.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that would be a good way to, because I do have a lot of people that really enjoyed the T-shirts that I got. And if I'm like guaranteeing like this is you get another quality T-shirt with cool art on it, they might be inclined to back that. And with all the new connections I have, and I can make it, for I can maybe like do a limited time, like 2-week, because I would also want to have this turnaround before the Paracon, but it wouldn't be as critical to get done as it is to have these comics done.
Yeah.
So maybe I might test the waters again, and see how that goes, because I do get a lot of good feedback on my shirts. I've sold out of all my larges. Anything large and up, I think I only have one XL left. I have a bunch of mediums and smalls and extra smalls. I think I've sold one extra small and like one small. But everybody loves those shirts. So
that's what I've seen with my shirts is when it comes to shows or Kickstarters, I don't even get smalls anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I just get between, when it comes to a show, I get medium to 2XL. Some shows I might have after a Kickstarter a few 3XLs.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed on Kickstarter, this isn't like trying to stereotype a Kickstarter back or anything. A lot of 3XLs like through Kickstarter. So it was one of those
I would
things
get a lot of
3X. Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I should probably have a few 3XLs for shows and stuff.
I think 3X was one of the first ones I sold out of. I mean, I had less of them, but I sold out of them like fast.
Yeah, 2X, pretty much extra large to 3X are the ones that sell the most for me. Medium as well. Large, I've been 50-50 on like what I'm going to do for now on, like what I did with Tales from Town City shirts. I'm going to order not a lot of larges because people either get a medium or an extra large. Rarely, very rarely do I have someone get a large. Um, and I know it sounds bad. If they want the t-shirt and they are a large, I think they're okay with getting an extra large. Um, that's my same thinking with like no longer having smalls. Is like one, none of them sold. Maybe one sold, and then it's like if they want the shirt, like a medium's not that much bigger than a small, and they usually get that anyway. They're like, okay, yeah, I'll get a medium. I think sometimes people get a size up anyway because even though the shirts don't shrink in the wash, they have that thing of like, well, if it does shrink, then I'm still good.
Yeah. I've had really good shirt quality luck, where a lot of them don't shrink as often as I think they once used to.
Yeah.
All right.
People don't turn your washer on hot. Don't turn your dryer on the hottest section. You'll be fine. That's with any clothing. My clothing or Gucci or whatever.
Okay, so you said something about creators being benefiting from an interesting 90s documentary that you saw. Tell us a little bit more.
I'm surprised I never heard of it up until like a week and a half ago. Like I was first one mentioned I had a Mexico trip last week, basically a week ago. And with the flight and everything, I wanted to download some movies, wanted to kill that time because flights can be so boring if you don't have stuff to do. And one of the things I downloaded was a documentary from, it was 1999 called American Movie. It's American Movie. It's about this guy named Mark Borchardt. He's like he's like 29, 30 years old. And he has a love for filmmaking. He's been making short films and stuff like that, like all growing up and stuff. And he's trying to make this feature-length movie called Northwestern. It's the passion projects he's wanted to do. He's been like working on it, like in the documentary. He's been working on it for like 6 years, and even before that, he's always had the idea for it and stuff. And as they're starting to make Northwestern, this is like within the first 15 minutes, doesn't have the resources he needs in terms of funding, reliable cast and crew, all that stuff. So he then goes back to a short horror film that was like 30-40 minutes long that he started making 2 years prior, called Coven. Now, if you look at the spelling, it's Coven, but he talks about it in the thing. He's like, no, man. And this is all in Wisconsin as well. I should mention this. This is all in Wisconsin. So they have those thick Wisconsin accents and stuff. And he also says man after like every other sentence. It's great. It's like, no, man, can't call it Coven because it sounds too much like oven, man. Coven. And so basically the whole rest of the documentary after the 15-minute or 10 or 15-minute mark is him finishing this short film he started 2 years prior. And it's this 2 or 3 person, it's really 2 people, this 2-person documentary crew just following them around. How the documentary crew got involved was the documentarian, I think his name's Chris Smith. He's now made like big documentaries now, but before this, he's a nobody. He hadn't really made anything. Like some of the stuff he made the Fire Festival documentary for Netflix. He also made the documentary Jim and Andy, which is about Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman and Man on the Moon and stuff. He's done some big work, but this is all before that. And it takes place basically like 1995 to 1997. And Chris Smith, the backstory is essentially he was at the university nearby trying to like edit and put together a documentary he was trying to make. And he runs into Mark Borchardt and hears about Mark's story and all this stuff. And he's like, dude, I just want to like, can I document you making this feature-length movie that you're trying to make? And then, of course, the feature-length movie gets cut, and it's now a short film.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the whole documentary is just it's 2-person documentary crew following Mark Borchardt and his friends making this short horror film. It's just, I don't know, I really like it. It might be one of my favorite documentaries.
You also like Sin Violent Nature, so.
Well, okay. This one.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'll say this with any documentary. There are slow moments within a documentary. There might be some in this, but I think it's more just like this is about a nobody filmmaker. Yeah, it's a process about a nobody filmmaker trying to make this short horror film that was put on the back burner 2 or 3 years ago, essentially. Yeah, the oven. Yeah, put it on the oven. And he's just dedicated to doing it. And you see, like, also his life around trying to make this. Like, there's so many things. He has 3 kids.
Yeah.
So
it's something of an inspiration.
Yeah, it really is. It's really inspiring. There's some funny moments as well, because there's like Mark, I don't think is a bad director. I think he's actually a really good director, but there's some moments where he's interacting with the people he's working with, because most of them are just like friends or like local theater people. Like, yeah, I don't think they're really getting paid, because like it's indie filmmaking. You're not going to get paid for that sort of thing. It's a short film. So he's having to navigate with that, and his mom has to come in and help with some stuff, help with filming cookies. And cookies and all that. But like, I mean, even sometimes his mom has to like be behind the camera, and this is also the age of film as well. So having to deal with all that, and him loving his mom, but sometimes just being frustrated with her. Like, she's very supportive.
Yeah, I get that.
And also like he lives with his parents still. Again, he has 3 kids, estranged from the girlfriend / baby mama sort of thing. He now has a new girlfriend. His friend Mike Shank is one of the best. It's weird calling him this. One of the best characters in a documentary, because before this documentary, Mark and Mike met each other 10, 15 years prior, and how they met each other. Mike talks about it, and I should also mention Mike, Wisconsin boy. I say boy, is like same age as Mark, like 28, 29. He has the thick accent, but he talks very low like this, and a lot of times it's very monotone, and sometimes he'll laugh a little bit as he's talking, and it's funny because like some of the stuff he says is just like because he talks about how they met at one point, and Mike was like yeah, I used to do a lot of partying. I like to party a lot, and no one liked to party as hard as I did. And then eventually I met Mark, and he liked to party, and we both had a
my freak. So you know,
it was like I was like, hey, I've got this bottle of vodka. And he was like, I'll take some, and so we just drank the whole bottle of vodka and we partied.
No, you
it's so
didn't.
great. Mike is so great. Like I love Mike, and also like it gets into like his backstory a little bit because you're watching it and the way he talks as well as like some of his mannerisms. This isn't being mean, but he seems a little off. But then like midway through or 2/3 of the way through, like he talks about a story, same cadence as he always has.
Mm-hmm.
And he's telling the story as Mark is editing his film together. He's splicing the film and all that. He's telling the story of like yeah, one time I was partying pretty hard and I felt kind of out of it. I had this acid, I dropped this acid, and then not long after I woke up in the hospital. And well, actually, before I woke up, you know how your brain, the waves are like beep 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 on the little machine. Well, mine in the hospital was me. It's like, but eventually they brought me back to life, and it turns out the acid had been dipped in PCP and downer, but it explains like why he's possibly like this. But yeah, basically, I mentioned all that to say like the two were big like drinkers and druggies before, but now they've kind of recovered. Mark recovered from like partying and stuff, but he still drinks a lot, and you'll see that in the movie. But towards the end, he kind of like stops. But essentially, I mentioned all this. It's a bit of a slice of life, a 2-year slice of life. Like this documentary, 2-person documentary crew follows them for over 2 years of finishing the short film, and it's just the odds and all that stacked against one person in terms of bills. That's another thing Mike talks about. There's segments where like he has bills, and Mike is also like very charismatic in speaking. That's also why he's such Mark. He's very charismatic in his speaking, and that's how he gets a lot of people roped into his filmmaking and stuff. But there's some segments where he's like, got this $150 bill for this, I got $80 phone bill, and I got this, I got that, and then he like opens up one thing and it's like some sort of tax refund or something, and it's not much, it's like $50. He's like, oh, hot dog, man, this is great. Like, this just changed my day. It's the documentary is called American Movie because it very much is like, this is essentially your average American. A little bit less maybe in terms of like everything that is just going on with Mark's life at that point. But it's this average American trying to still do his passion all while navigating the world around him, sort of thing.
Yeah, sounds very relatable.
Yeah, it's relatable for any creative. Like honestly, I'd say anyone watch this, but I think creatives will get the most out of this documentary.
Right.
It's heartfelt. It's funny. There are some funny moments in it. Because that's the thing. There are some parts. I showed it to my sister. I've seen it twice now. I showed it to my sister a couple days ago. There are some parts in it where she's like, wait, is this real? I was like, no, these are real people. Because there's some parts where it almost feels like The Office, kind of, where it feels like staged mockumentary, because it's like so funny or so well shot in some parts. I was like, no, this is real. These are real people. They are not characters, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I would love to check that out.
I highly recommend it. Any creatives out there, check out American Movie. You'll have a good time. And I think it'll also kick you
Give
in
you a
the
little
pants
kick,
a little
yeah.
bit in terms of just keep on going, keep on chugging along. And Mark, he's actually doing pretty decent today.
Yeah.
In terms of
Okay.
after that, he and Mike had a cameo in Family Guy. They were in a Green Bay Packers Super Bowl commercial. Yeah. And there was a couple other things, but he seems to be doing pretty well. And after I saw the documentary, I found him on Instagram, and because I really, this isn't really a spoiler, like it's what the whole documentary is about. He eventually does finish Coven. He calls it Coven, someone call it Coven. He finishes it, and now periodically he sells signed VHS copies of it. Like he'll reprint it, sort of thing, and sell VHS copies of it. I paid plus shipping $42 for this 40 minute short film on VHS because I really want to see it. I want to see this thing.
You're like, I don't have a VHS player right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't even have a VHS player right now. I have to get one because it's basically pre-order. Like he's doing pre-orders right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be 3 to 7 weeks before I get my copy. So during that time, I got to get a VHS player.
Yes.
Because I really want to see this.
Well, that sounds hilarious. We are definitely going to look into that when that comes around. Okay, so we've got 2 more things that we're going to cover, but I'm going to run to the restroom real quick and pause this.
Sounds good.
All right, we are back. Now, I'm pondering on what we're gonna tackle first. Let's go ahead.
What are the 2 options?
Your announcement and Hellboy.
Let's do announcement and then Hellboy.
Okay.
Because I want to. I know it sounds bad. I want to breeze through the announcement.
Yeah.
To get the Hellboy.
Okay.
So for those wondering about the announcement, Gallows Man #3, the last Kickstarter for this was May of 2022. That was Gallows Man #2. Gallows Man #3 is finally coming out. The penultimate issue of this series, basically. It's finally coming out. September 10th is when the Kickstarter will happen.
Yeah.
Yes. 2 months away from time of recording, basically. September 10th is when it'll launch. It'll run from September 10th to October 11th. So I'm looking forward to it. For those that don't know, Gallows Man is just 1940s. It basically, I don't even have to say all this. It's Adam West Batman meets Inglourious Bastards. I'll leave it at that. Definitely check it out. It's fun. This one is the reason it took so long is both me and Helen, the artist of Gallows Man, just a lot of stuff the past 2 years in terms of life, but also this issue is like 56, 57 pages in story. It's a fat issue. Mm-hmm. There's a lot there. And there were times I was thinking like, oh, maybe I could like cut it in half. Like I see this little part, it could work as an ending and just split the issue into 2 issues. But no, ultimately, I think it works best all together, even though it's 56, 57 pages total of story. And also, it's one of those things where it's been 2-year wait for people that backed the Kickstarter before, to where it's like, here you go. Here's big old textbook essentially of a comic book. Here you go. Here's what you've been waiting for.
Well, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Personally, I'm gonna admit I've only read the Tales of Town City, so I'm gonna be. Nice. I want to catch up. I want to read Gallows Man. We need to discuss it and see what the more minutia is that we can kind of pull out what's already been established. So I think that would be fun.
And I will say, for those that have only read Tales from Town City, the two homeless characters, Hypno Ray and Rusty Hook, they make a little cameo in Gallows Man #3. It wasn't a rewrite. They were always in the script from the very beginning, like 5 or 6 years ago when I first wrote the Gallows Man script. They were always at this spot. I did have to tweak something a little bit with them, though, to help with Tales from Town City. Essentially to help with their future. Because I'll go ahead and tell you, Austin, it's not a big spoiler. This isn't a big spoiler. They're only in like 3-4 pages of Gallows Man #3. Originally, they were going to die in Gallows Man #3. This was before Tales from Town City.
Yeah.
Before Tales from Town City. The only bit that you saw of those two was like, I think 1, maybe 2 pages from Gallows Man #1. It's just Gallows Man and Newsboy talking about these villains in this alleyway sort of thing, and they get popped up. And then in issue 3 right here, in the 3 to 4 pages they're in, they were going to like brutally die. I had to tweak that a little bit. They do not die now, but the scene is almost exactly the same. So there wasn't a lot of tweaking that had to happen.
Is this edited out of the video? You want this out?
You can keep it.
Okay,
it's fine. They're 3 pages of this 56, 57 page book. Like, it's fine. They're not the focus of the Gallows Man series,
right?
So it's all good.
All right. Okay, so we came to the discovery that they are making a new Hellboy movie, which was not something highly announced from everything that I've seen, because I ran across a screenshot of the face from the trailer that of the person they have for the role. And
when did you run across this?
Like yesterday, like 2 days ago.
Okay. So I was because when you had mentioned at the beginning before we recorded, you had said you had seen something. I was like, you saw something about this before the trailer? Because me personally, I had no idea this was coming out or there was a new Hellboy movie before this trailer dropped. And even then, the trailer drops. I didn't hear about the trailer dropping. The only way I heard about it was because a comic YouTube channel I watch, Comic Pop, talked about it. Had I not been subscribed to them, it'd probably be a month or 2 before I would even know this was a thing, with the trailer already being out.
Yeah, it's so I was skeptical. I saw this screen cap that was on X, and I was like, this is like AI art or something. This is not real.
I don't want to say anything yet till you see it, because I don't want to affect your first time viewing of it or your reaction.
Well, a lot of the reactions to this were also like, they didn't like who has been casted. They were like, the look of this person didn't really fit. And also there was a very much shared sentiment about like, where did this come from? This is completely out of the blue. Is this real? Like, so that was my reaction. But we have the trailer pulled up.
Austin has not seen it yet.
I've not seen it. I've not seen this trailer yet. So we're going to take a look at the trailer. And as many people that watch this may have heard previously, I just started reading Hellboy officially, the Mike Mignola version of it. And volume 1 has still been out, but I did grab volume 3. I finished volume 2, so we can do a little Hellboy critiquing in another episode. But we will
also, with this, I'll say, if there's any point you want to pause and talk about something specifically, we can. I've seen the trailer. I've got my thoughts on it, but I don't want to
Okay.
say anything until Austin has seen some.
This is fun. This is fun. I don't know how the volume's going to sound. I wonder if people are going to be able to hear it. Well, let's give it a watch.
Okay, so did you see the entertainment company? That was the one I talked about.
Let's take a look.
20 minutes ago or so. Catch Up Entertainment. Catch Up Entertainment.
Oh,
That's
no.
why I was like, oh no.
Oh, no. Okay. All right.
And then the next one, I've seen Millennium. They make like indie horror movies usually.
Okay.
Like low budget horror movies. I've never seen Catch Up Entertainment.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So what are you thinking?
So this is very horror movie-esque so far.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go ahead and spoil it for you. The rest of it is that, which I personally have not read any Hellboy. I've seen a ton of Hellboy art. I love Mike Mignola's art. I like the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies. But that's my extent of it.
Right.
So I like the idea of horror Hellboy movie, having not read any of the comics. You've only seen a little bit of it. There might be some more. You've seen stuff online. The look of Hellboy,
Right.
You'll see more of it in this trailer. I'll save my specific thoughts on that.
Okay.
Or Gas just wanted to come up and just
you know
yell
what?
at
I'll
this.
just let it play, and then I can go back and we'll look at what.
Sounds good. All right. So it's not a super long trailer. My number one positive with this trailer, it's the length a trailer should be.
Yeah.
I think that's my main positive with it is I am so tired of 2.5 to 4 minute trailers. You don't need that. It's supposed to be a trailer. I think you can convey what the movie kind of is in a minute and a half. So that's my one positive with this trailer, is it's the length the trailer should be.
Okay, go ahead.
My biggest issue is, again, I understand financing and stuff. It's tough to get it. My biggest issue is just how cheap this kind of looks.
Right.
Specifically, I mean, there's multiple things. The biggest thing is like Hellboy's face. We didn't see a lot of like the rest of the body, so I can't really comment on that. Go to about like 20 or 30 seconds. There's one shot that has it best maybe go a little bit more. It's like very bright. He's like turning his head. Let's see. Oh, right there. Right there. There we go. Okay, so I don't like Hellboy's face at all. Here's the thing. You had mentioned the actor. Yes, most of that is probably close to what the actor looks like, aside from the horns and the red makeup and all that. But you can slap on prosthetics to someone, and I know this sounds bad. You can slap on prosthetics to any guy with a good voice. He's Hellboy. That sounds mean. That's all you got to do, though. He needs to look and sound what you think Hellboy would look and sound like. And really, you just need him to sound like that. The look, let's slap all that crap on. Boom, Hellboy. I don't think they had the budget for that, which is why this looks like a really good cosplay, but it does not look like movie. Like feature length Hellboy movie. And also with this shot right here, it kind of exemplifies the rest of the trailer. I don't look. My sister is more into filmmaking and film editing, and she knows all that stuff. But the color grading of this, it looks off. It's what I had mentioned with the makeup and the cosplay. All of this looks kind of like a fan film.
Right.
The coloring's not right with this. It looks
I actually like the coloring.
Really? Okay.
So far.
Okay. I don't know. I guess I do like the darker,
it's
moodier to it. What I do like about the comic is like Mike Mignola uses a lot of shadows. I like that. Again, this is just looking at this frame. There's a lot of frames that are like this gray / bright. Like it's bright. That's not a bad shot. That actually looks kind of good. That one looks good. I think it's anytime Hellboy's in frame.
Right.
It just looks off. Like that. That does not look good to me. Like I don't know. I based on Mike Mignola's art, if you were wanting, like, because I like the horror vibe of this, I like that it's horror. It also takes place in like Appalachian wood sort of thing. That's cool. I like that. But I don't know, to capture like those shadows that Mike Mignola does, maybe like tone the brightness down or something right here. Like, I don't know, or something. It's just off to me. Like this scene right here looks like a very solid Tubi movie, or it looks like a very solid YouTube fan film. But it does not scream, hey, this is the new Hellboy movie, and it's going to be in movie theaters.
I'm trying to look through this current omnibus that I have for a setting like this, because when I think Hellboy, I don't think horror movie setting. Not particularly. Now that's
what I did here. I don't know what volume or issues this is. What I did here is the Crooked Man. That is like a actual villain in Hellboy. That's also like an arc, a story arc, like a story. And from what I heard, a lot of that does take place in like woods / like Appalachian woods. So if all that is like comic accurate, that's good. I just think it could look a little bit better. Like A+ for comic accuracy, if that is the case. If this Crooked Man story, if it does take place in Appalachian woods and stuff, A+ for sticking to that.
Yeah.
But the editor.
Well, I mean, here's a
color
wood
grader.
here's a wood setting. It's very blue.
Mm.
I wonder if I can make myself bigger or something. For now, this will do. But you can see how blue that is.
Yeah, yeah.
And he sticks out like a sore thumb.
That's the thing, is like, I think that's why this looks so odd, is like he's so toned down in color.
Yeah.
Which I think you kind of have to do if you are going for this is it's not Blumhouse, but essentially this is a Blumhouse horror film.
Mm-hmm.
If he was bright red, I could see some people being like, this is a little bit goofy. Like, this is a little bit weird.
Well, see, that's where this whole thing breaks down for me. So the first point is that I do agree it looks really cheap. This train looks horrible. This is a horrible looking train. The snake that is here, horrible looking snake. It's god awful. I like the idea of a horror-esque Hellboy.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
But you gotta get the tone for Hellboy right to do that successfully, because from what I have read, Hellboy is not a comedian. He's not making quips. He's very stoic, and he makes funny remarks. It's not like he's trying to crack a joke all the time. He might crack some jokes, but he's very just like matter of fact. He's just very, one word, funny, response.
Yeah.
And the problem that I've seen with a lot of movie adaptations of Hellboy is he's trying to make jokes all the time. Yeah. And I don't like horror comedies because the horror aspect is always like erased.
Right.
Like it just doesn't land. You would have to be one hell of a writer to like be able to have like really funny moments in a very tense, horrific, like kind of place.
Yeah.
So trying to get the tone of Hellboy is not easy, and it's even worse if it's like trying to like make him funny. And I feel like he's got the big cannon, gun, and he's got it just seems like they're really trying to recreate that what's it, that director's name?
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
Del Toro. They're really trying to mimic a Del Toro.
I think that's what, because those were such big movies. Those were things that like those two movies introduced the majority of people to Hellboy. So now studios, writers are trying to, take some inspiration from the comics, but also more inspiration from that, because that's the thing that everyone knows. When it's like what you said in the comics, like Hellboy isn't cracking whips like quips every other second sort of thing. Question, you have that in front of you. Hellboy, does he have pupils or irises?
So typically not. He typically just has yellow eyes, which is kind of hard to convey. Not only, like, I tried to make a portrait of him earlier, and I did kind of like line in some empty irises. And I don't think that hit. So I want to try a little bit more, because he does, with those empty eyes, there's just always this constant stoicism that's really in his character, that's really embedded in those eyes too.
Yeah, I'm looking at I like that idea or that design more than this. Like go back to one of the things where it shows him a little bit more. Like even here, like you see his eyes, you see
Right.
human eyes. I don't like that. I think really, like again, I'm not a fan of the way the makeup and the coloring looks. I think a simple improvement by this is just getting rid of the human eyes, just
Mhm.
doing the yellow or something. If you want to do
Yeah.
yellow, sure. If it doesn't work, just something that isn't human eyes. I think that would up like if you don't have the money to change all of this, simply changing the
Mhm.
eyes, I think would up it a ton in terms of the look.
And they're bright. It makes him too human, I think. It takes that you're kind of breaching um the immersion that this is supposed to be a demon.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, I think that's what plays into the my feeling of like, oh, this is just pretty good cosplay. Like
yeah,
nothing against cosplayers, but like
I
cosplay
bet
at
there's better
a
cosplayers in this.
oh yeah, oh 100%. Yeah, because the cosplayers will actually do yellow contacts or whatever. Like right there, that looks really bad. Um, but I think that would up it so much, getting rid of the human eyes. And that'd be cheap as well, instead of having to redo all the makeup and stuff, because I think that is something you would possibly have to do, or just change the head or something. I don't know. It's off. Um, but the cheapest way to improve it would just be changing the eyes.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I mean, you could probably convincingly, one of the few areas that you could probably do a good CG job, because they're so minuscule
Yeah,
as
yeah,
little things on the screen, that you could give them a yellow tint, tone them down just a little bit to match him,
yeah,
and then it's like bada boom, bada bang. uh,
yeah. I
Now, the one of the things that the uh, Del Toro movies did right, like I said before, is I rewatched the first one a few weeks ago, and the composition and those really really hard darks that Mignon is known for really does shine
oh yeah,
in
yeah.
those versions of the movie. I mean, I don't remember the second one um, as far as composition goes. I remember that one being very golden and bright because it's the Golden Army.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but uh, the
I mean,
the the
like
composition and dark and color and everything was just really really beautiful in that first one.
I'm just scrolling through. I just typed in Hellboy Mike Mignola art, and the first like 100 images, when it shows Hellboy, if it's not his jacket inside, or if it's not under his pec sort of thing, or if it's
Hmm.
not a side of the face or whatever, every image has some darkening or shadow to it, and I think that like heightens the look of it. But whenever we shine natural daylight, like, because this is what it looks like, it looks no color grading, it looks like you just did natural daylight, and even then you may have cranked up the brightness for some reason. When you're able to see all the detail and there's no shadow, there's no darkness to it, it just looks off. It has that cheap
Hmm.
look to it. Because I'll say, you can keep it as it is. I think the main thing, I think what can make it look like this Hellboy look better is just changing that brightness, changing that saturation, or
Hmm.
not really much saturation, changing the brightness, having some shadows in there. Like, I think that if people saw that, where it's exactly this, we just toned down the brightness, had the shadows showing because the brightness is down. I think it's still, people would still be 50-50 about it. I don't think they'd be ragging on this Hellboy look as much though, if
Yeah.
it wasn't here's a spotlight, and you see every every makeup detail of him, to where it's like, yeah, this all looks like makeup.
So in that Del Toro movie, the first one, I don't remember much of the second one, but they kept him kind of covered up with a shirt, and I didn't like that because he's always shirtless. Like he is 90.
I'm completely fine with shirtless. I just think it depends on like your lighting.
Right.
When it's like this, like,
I think the most egregious thing is the jaw. With this Hellboy is
it's
the jaw of Hellboy is like just very broad.
This is a very human jaw. I think you're spot on now thinking about it. I think that's what plays into my mind of like cosplay. Again, not bashing cosplayers. It's just feature-length movie special effects can sometimes be different than average convention cosplay,
because that's kind of a signature thing for Hellboy is his jaw.
Just have that kind of squarish jaw that also sticks out a little bit.
Now this omnibus does not look like it is highly made, illustrated by Mike Mignola. It looks like really? Somebody has that Mike's own house style, I guess you could call, has been permeated through this. It looks like several different artists have done most of this omnibus. It doesn't look like it's definitely Mike Mignola influenced, and I do see like probably areas where he probably played a huge part. But like this first story is very Mike Mignola-esque, but he only did the writing, allegedly.
Well, I've got his Hellboy art pulled up, and it's like it's not exactly what you had just shown, but it still has the
like this cover is Mike Mignola,
squarish jaw, and also like his face. I don't know how to describe it. Almost like dips in because the jaw is like kind of pronounced, like.
And that's what Ron Perlman, I think, just had a natural.
Yeah. Ron Perlman has that like odd jaw structure.
And I think the other guy that did the 2019 one, what's his name?
David Harbour. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had a good look to be Hellboy. I think he had a really good chance at being a good Hellboy with a good director.
But, yeah.
I overall, I'm not excited about this. I can see why it didn't get really highly promoted.
You got catch-up entertainment behind it. How could it not get promoted?
But I'm not looking forward to them trying to. It looks like they're essentially just trying to make a horror movie with the Del Toro version of Hellboy.
That's essentially what it looks like. The thing is, I think I'm almost certain, not entirely certain. I'm almost certain this will make a profit, which could be good, could be bad. The reason I mentioned that is like, I would be so shocked if this had over a $10 million budget. I'd be pretty shocked if it had a $5 million or over budget. It looks like it's $1 million, maybe a little more than $1 million, like a couple million or something. You don't have any notable actors or anything like that. Not saying you have to, but you don't have anything like that cost you an arm and a leg. And I don't know. It looks somewhat cheap. The CGI isn't great, but it's not bad. I've seen way worse CGI. I can forgive the CGI train and the snake. It's not great. Here's the thing. It's not great. But I'll say for this movie, for the shots I saw of bright Hellboy cosplay, and then you had that CGI, I'm surprised you had that CGI for this. I'm surprised that happened. I was expecting Snake Hotel 3 CGI. But I don't know. Like, the sad part about it is I will probably see this. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not hyped for it. But I do kind of want to talk about it. It deals with comics. Yeah. Like, rarely do you get any indie comic stuff in the theater. Most indie comic stuff. That's the thing. If this comes out in theater, no idea if it comes out in theater. They haven't said anything about that. It could go straight to streaming or something.
It does.
Does it say in theater soon?
No, I'm just now. I just now realized that it didn't say anything about going to theaters.
Yeah, because I just thought about that. It might not come to theater. Which, hey, like, it's probably the best fitting thing for this. It went to Hulu or whatever.
This is Dollar Tree Hellboy. This is Heckboy.
Yeah, like someone, I forgot who it was. Someone had mentioned online. This is we have Hellboy at home. This is that. Like oh yeah, no, don't get that. We've got Hellboy at home. Like, this is that. Like, it's again, I'm not looking forward to it. I'll see it though, because rarely do you see indie
I might see it just to talk about it with you.
Stuff. Yeah. Like, most of your indie stuff, like your Image, Boom, any of that stuff, gets a TV show. Sometimes the TV show is pretty good. A lot of times it looks pretty good. Like Paper Girls looks good. Sweet Tooth looks good. This, it's a movie. It's a horror movie. Doesn't look like anything original in terms of horror movies, but
you're right.
It's a horror movie.
Get off my keyboard. My kittens are growing up, but they're still kittens at heart.
Nice.
Well, Brandon, it has been wonderful getting to talk about all this with you. And I'm thinking about upping our frequency, but we will discuss that at another time. Like I said, it feels like it's been forever since our last podcast. But I appreciate you joining me. And this is episode 19. And they say that most podcasts don't get to episode 21. So we're going to prove them wrong.
We're almost there. We'll make it.
Yes. So I am Austin Light with American Demon Comics. You can find Indie at AmericanDemonComics.com and on my social media, all at American Demon Comics. And you can find Brandon at Dismay Comics on Instagram and Facebook. And be looking out for his Gallows Man #3 coming out September-ish.
Yeah, September 10th. It'll be out. Still working on a bunch of other comic stuff in the meantime and working on stuff after that. And I can't say too much about the project now, but September and October is going to be interesting because Gallows Man 3 Kickstarter September 10th to October 11th. If things go right with the artist I'm working with, like all the artists I'm working with, a few days after that, there will be a collective project Kickstarter that will hopefully launch on October 15th. If not, it'll be beginning of 2025. So in terms of promotion stuff, from September to November is going to be crazy for me in terms of getting on shows and stuff, because the second Gallows Man 3 Kickstarter ends, I then got to start promoting this other thing I'm partnered with. So,
all right. Well, looking forward to hear about all that extra project, that group effort. I've got a long boy here. All right. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next time.
Take care.